Boys, girls, all my chumos out there, welcome back to the Model Nerds. I'm Joe, one half of the Model Nerds, and this is Suicide Squad. Now, if you know anything about my viewpoint on DC, or pretty much anyone's viewpoint on DC at this moment, you would know that DC's kind of missing in terms of their movies. Man of Steel was not impressive, and Batman vs. Superman was even less impressive. So Suicide Squad kind of had that hovering over it going into this movie, but went into this completely not biased at all. Wanted to enjoy it. Really liked the marketing for it. I love the neon designs and no Zack Snyder, so I was all for that. Was really hoping this would be different and DC would finally kind of get on track. And I don't think this did it for him. I'm gonna say, and I really don't want to say it, this felt like it was DC's attempt at Guardians of the Galaxy. I know. Everything from the soundtrack, I felt like the songs, they were kind of going for the same kind of thing. It even sounded like a couple of songs were shared. I felt like at least one or two songs were also in Guardians of the Galaxy. Don't know that for sure. Don't know anything about music. So, don't know if that's the case. Probably not. But it felt like it. And the soundtrack felt like it was a complete kind of knockoff of that. Really just the feel of what they try to do here. Just felt like Guardians of the Galaxy. They try to recreate what Marvel created in terms of the magic on screen of that. I know Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy, for that matter, are both pre-existing comics. I know that. I'm talking about on screen. This felt like their attempt at Guardians of the Galaxy. This team of renegade, anti-hero / villain team that you throw together, and there's no reason for them to be together, but then it works, it clicks. However, this didn't click. So, let's talk about what didn't lead to it being the great movie that it should have been, right? The writing. The writing was kind of all over the place, and it felt like they cut a lot out. There's a lot of character kind of relationships or moments that are awkward or kind of pushed, and it's really not getting over. It's just kind of a miss. It's dead on arrival, pretty much. A few of those relationships. One relationship in particular is Rick Flag and Deadshot. Personally, I thought that was dead on arrival. They tried to force a little relationship with those two, and I don't know if it was just the chemistry between the two actors, or the writing, or maybe there were scenes that were cut, but it just never clicked. That's just one example. I mean, there were a lot of kind of relationships here that really felt forced. I mean, Rick Flag was dating the villain, kind of. And they bring that up, and they talk about how that was kind of pushed on Rick Flag. I will say Amanda Waller was one of the good points of the movie. Well, Amanda Waller, Viola Davis was great. The writing for Amanda Waller was great. She was really a force to be reckoned with. She was exactly what Amanda Waller should be, and I thought she was a much better interpretation of the character than we see or saw in Arrow, the live action alternative to this Amanda Waller. Thought this one was much better. Really just cold and calculated, and that's what the character should be. And intimidating, kind of a quiet intimidating, silent rage to her. And that works, and that clicks, and that was completely here with Amanda Waller. And I will say the first half of the movie was really Amanda Waller heavy. The first half of the movie clicked, it worked, it was good, and had they kept going that route, this movie could have been something really special. The first half of the movie had Amanda Waller really kind of leading everything here, and we see the introductions of the characters, and it worked. And it was working. And then the rest of the movie happens. And then they actually get put together. some of the members of the squad barely ever have anything to do or talk or really anything. Captain Boomerang was a character that was kind of a schmuck, and they positioned that way from the beginning. And you want to see more of that kind of schmuck like personality. He was a fun character, I'll say that. And you wanted to see more of him. You don't really. He's barely acknowledged. Um, Slipknot, I believe his name was. That fine for if you watch the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Where they go with Slipknot makes sense. Really sets the groundwork. It made sense. El Diablo is another one who I would say had such a great story arc, but it was just bogged down by lack of time and really energy into giving anything to the character. Uh, he really it just has a very minimal presence throughout the movie, which is a shame because his story arc was really, really special. And I think that's something that could have really been fleshed out even more. Or just give the character more time. Let us see El Diablo more. Well, no, seeing them wasn't the problem. We saw them. They were there in the background. But interaction. We didn't see a lot of interaction. Killer Croc was he even there? I mean, he was barely a thing. Um, it really felt like besides Deadshot and Harley Quinn that the rest of the team just wasn't there. And that's a shame. Margot Robbie did great as Harley Quinn. I thought she was great. Just like Viola Davis, I thought Margot Robbie captured the essence of what the character is, and I thought she did a great interpretation of the character. But Will Smith was too Will Smith for Deadshot. By that I mean he did not play Deadshot. He played Will Smith. The writing for that character was Will Smith. I mean, it was Will Smith being Will Smith. That's not anything against the character. I thought the backstory of the character, they kind of made him have a human side. We see that Arrow, he wasn't the worst guy. You know, he had kind of a heart. So it's not that they gave Deadshot such a human side. It's really just the writing for Deadshot. A lot of lines, Deadshot saying that's gangsta, and a lot of stuff like that. It felt very Will Smith. It looked like seeing another Will Smith movie. Will Smith, just kind of his delivery. It didn't seem like he was acting. It seemed like he was just doing what he's done in a lot of movies. I mean, the last few movies he's done, I feel like he did that besides Concussion. I don't know. This time around, it just did. I didn't see Deadshot. I saw Will Smith, which is a shame because with pretty much every other character, I saw that character. They did a great job with. I'm going to butcher his name, so I'm just going to say Adewale, the Mr. Echo from Lost, who was Killer Croc. They did a great job with him. They transformed him into Killer Croc. His lines were very minimal, so I guess he couldn't have had. Will Smith is a name value actor, and that's why I'm saying that. You see a lot of Will Smith movies. It felt like they just catered to Will Smith with his dialogue and just kind of gave him. They wrote for Will Smith essentially. Margot Robbie was great. Now it's time for what I consider, besides the writing was sloppy all over the place. There were plot holes, character faults. I feel like they forced kind of a relationship too strongly. It felt like a relationship kind of was created out of nowhere, and these characters started to kind of care for each other out of nowhere, and there was really no interaction between the team as a whole to really get you to that point, so it felt very unearned. After maybe like one little battle, all of a sudden they're best friends, and it was really kind of unearned. But getting to my biggest fault with the movie, specifically besides the writing and all that, is the Joker. And I will go out on a limb. It was not Jared Leto. It was not Jared Leto at all. Jared Leto did a fantastic job. He did exactly what he could have. The writing for the character was just so weak. And this wasn't the Joker. It did not feel like the Joker, and it was not presented like the Joker. What this was essentially DC's version of Kingpin. He was just this crime lord, and I get what Joker is. I love Joker. Joker's my favorite villain in any DC, Marvel, anything. And that's why it kind of hits closer to me, because I love the character so much. And I think there's so much depth with the character that they can go with, and just it should be kind of a charismatic performance, and that was far from a charismatic performance. And again, that's not Jared Leto's fault. It was the writing for the character and essentially what the character was. First off, we all knew what he looked like going into this. The new look the Joker had, it didn't work. I mean, it made sense with what they were doing, but it's not the Joker. He wasn't loony. He wasn't like funny. I guess I get it. It's a new interpretation of the Joker, but it felt like just such a far stretch. It was such a diversion from what the Joker is that it didn't feel like the Joker. It felt like Kingpin with Joker skin on, and that was a shame. And even his delivery was just kind of wooden and one note. And again, I'm not blaming Jared Leto. This was the direction they had for the character, and this was how the character was written, and this was how Jared Leto was directed. And it didn't work. However, Jared Leto still, you could tell he was trying. He put on a voice. Didn't think the voice worked. I thought it was a bit silly. It was like how Heath Ledger's Joker and Bane had their kind of distinctive voices. It sounded like he was trying to give that to this Joker, and it was just it was kind of there sometimes, and other times it wasn't, and it just was so in and out. It didn't really work. It wasn't really intimidating. It was just kind of goofy. Even though Bane's this was just, it felt forced. But it was just so wooden, one note. I will say the laugh was great. The laugh, you can tell, he's got the damaged tattoo, that this is a damaged Joker. And I guess that's really the direction that they go for here, and that's why it's not so very much over the top, out there like we've come to expect from the Joker. This one seems more withdrawn. And we do see a moment where he's laughing, and the laugh seems to end with a bit of a cry. You hear some pain in that laugh. I thought that was fantastic. And maybe even if they went that route more and kind of you saw more of this kind of withdrawn inner pain of the Joker, I think it would have worked. But it was just so weird how it was presented, and it felt like so much was left out, and it just didn't really connect well from one scene to the next with the Joker. And overall, it just felt like he shouldn't have been there and wasn't really needed, which is a shame. And again, I will say it was not Jared Leto. I thought he did great, although the character was weak, if that makes sense. It was the writing and the directing. Rick Flag as the leader of the team, I thought was weak, effete, ineffectual. He shouldn't have been written kind of that weak when he's supposed to be leading this badass team of badasses. He should have really been a stronger force. I mean, the battles were kind of anticlimactic. They didn't really... It felt like they should have gone to a next step that they weren't going to. It's a shame because the first half of the movie was set up so nicely, and then eventually kind of went nowhere. The villain was okay. I mean, not much to love or hate about it. I mean, I thought she did what she could. The acting, I don't think, was the problem in this movie whatsoever, except for Will Smith's Deadshot. It was just Will Smith. Really, I know I'm almost 15 minutes in. I'm going to end it now because I feel like I'm just going to just keep kind of going on with this. And really, it's not a nicely put together movie. It's just it seems like every kind of part of this movie has a problem that hinders it so much, which is a shame because in that part there's also so much potential for success. The acting, I mean, the casting, I thought was great, um, especially with Jared Leto as the Joker. The setup, the first half of the movie was great. Could have been so much more. Um, the look visually, I thought was a cool look in the movie. I thought everyone looked cool. I thought everything kind of looked cool. I liked how Batman was presented. Batman was presented from their point of view. It was kind of different. Uh, I'm gonna end it here. Like I always say, these are more discussion videos. So let's talk about this. Uh, Personally, although I was not a huge fan of this. I will say it was better than Batman v Superman. If that's saying anything, that's not saying much because Batman v Superman was Batman v Superman. But this was still a weak entry into what is ultimately a weak universe at this point. So hoping the next movie can step it up. But that's pretty much everything for this video. Let me know what you guys thought about Suicide Squad, and let's talk about this. And subscribe because it takes around that much effort to do so. Until next time, you have been traumatized.